Over at the State House, as House lawmakers have signed off on hate crime legislation, that bill is now headed to the Senate. Let's bring in our State House insiders to talk about what's going on over there right now. Antoine Seawright, our Democrat strategist, Dave Wilson, our Republican strategist. So, Dave, we'll begin with you. The hate crime bill passing the House, it heads to the Senate. What are the chances of passage there?
Got to expect some roadblocks in the Senate. There's some language that's in there that concerns several conservative senators right now. It's called the Bostock language. It is basically that allows for certain levels of sexual orientation, gender identity language to be put in there. The question is, does that apply in this particular case or not? Justice Neil Gorsuch ruled on this in a Supreme Court case several years ago. And so there is some real concern about that right now in the South Carolina Senate. I think it's going to hit a roadblock like it did last year.
First of all, this bill is named the Clemente Pinckney hate crimes legislation. The birthplace for this bill came as a result of 9 African Americans being killed worshiping their God and Mother Emanuel, including in that group was the late Senator Reverend Clemente Pinckney. That was the kickstart for this legislation. As Dave quickly pivoted to the conservative viewpoint about this bill. Well, let me tell you about hate crimes. Hate crimes that should not and never should be associated with any sort of partisan tilt, conservative, liberal, Democrat, or Republican. And that's why I was proud of the House, even though they're oftentimes so partisan, passed this bill in a bipartisan way. So we get to the Senate and we sometimes have these inside the bubble debates about certain language and so forth. We are one of only 2 states in the country that do not have hate crime legislation on the books. I think that the business community, I think every constituency in our state who rallies behind legislation should not let South Carolina be the laughingstock and not having some sort of hate crimes legislation on the books. We should not get into this word gymnastic conversation about language. Instead, pass the dang on bill.
Well, the problem that you got with that, Antoine, is you're talking about the language that's in the bill. That's the whole reason that we have to take a look at what lawmakers do, because you can slip in language into a bill. What happened to Senator Pinckney? You and I were both working in the Senate at the time. Was a horrific thing to happen. But what we're looking at right now is nuances in language. If our cases of what we've seen on other issues really matters, the nuances of the language in that bill really do matter, because it applies itself down the line and can be applied in other pieces of law
Dave,
in future.
Dave, but let's be clear. Across this country, and it can happen in South Carolina, God forbid, we've had targeted hate towards certain constituencies, including the LGBTQ+. Now, you may not agree with the positions they take and the stance they may hold. However, I think they deserve equal protections the same way I do as a Black person, as a Black man, the same way you do as a white person and a white man, Asian, Hispanic. I don't care about how people identify. What I care about is that they have equal protection under law, because at the end of the day, our civil rights should be protected rights.
And equal rights are guaranteed under the law. Are they always applied that way? Not necessarily. And that's a place where some places, Antoine, that's some places, though, where the business community has already started to backtrack on this issue. So it's going to be interesting, JR, to see how it plays itself out as it goes into the Senate.
So you're saying to me, conservatives in the South Carolina Senate will let perhaps a person's lifestyle or lifestyle choices stand as a roadblock between whether we remain one of 2 states to not have hate crime legislation named after one of their colleagues who was killed in the name of hate. Is that what you're saying?
Now, what we're actually saying, Antoine, is there is equal protection under the law right now. Tell me where there is not equal protection under the law right now. Because I think that's a guaranteed. I think that's a guaranteed right in our Constitution, and so we need to probably look at that as well.
Well, what I'm saying to you is, when I say equal protection, I mean if someone commits an act in the name of hate, like Dylann Roof did, regardless of a person's lifestyle, regardless of their race, gender, identity, all of that, none of that should matter. They should be punished accordingly. So you're saying that doesn't matter because it's when it comes to.
I'm saying, Antoine, every American.
You're saying it doesn't matter. I'm trying to check. I want the people at home to hear why we get bogged down in debates and why we can't sometimes move our state forward. Because whether you agree or not, certain people and certain things are going to exist in our lives So we have to learn to embrace that. That don't mean we always have to agree, but we should agree that they should be protected when it comes to legislative proposals like hate crimes.
All right, we're going to have to leave the conversation there, guys. I appreciate your time this evening. Antoine C. Wright, Dave Wilson, guys, thank you so very much.